Good to see you today. You grew up in, I mean, you were kind of born into Animalia there in like, on the edge of Africa in Zimbabwe. That's where you grew up?
Yeah, exactly right. So son of safari business owners. If I wasn't in school, we either lived on a farm or my family ran safaris. So I was out in the bush. So I've just been around wildlife my entire childhood.
Oh, wow. That's you right there.
Yeah. Look at them teeth right there.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't want to get bit by that.
No. Yeah. I was part beaver growing up. Yeah.
Take me into some of that, like what it's like growing up in like a safari land. Does it give you a different appreciation of animals? Does it make you more fearful of animals?
It's a good question. I mean, I think anything you grow up with, you become used to, right? It's like this is the norm when you're a kid. You just expect that that's the norm. Mm-hmm. So I grew up, I'd come home from school, kick my shoes off, run out on the farm, try and catch snakes or be looking for jackals or all these, just like a coyote, all these kind of things that sort of is parallel to if you grew up on a farm here, right? If you're a farm kid here, you go out and, you're from Louisiana, maybe you see a cottonmouth or coyote in the bush or whatever, right?
Yeah, just tickle a chicken or something.
Tickle a chicken, Yeah, that meant something else when I got to high school. But, I grew up thinking that was the norm and then I'd go out into the bush on safari with my family and it would be like, don't leave the tent after dark and stay here. And, there were rules, but as long as you didn't break the rules, you were pretty safe. And what I saw throughout my childhood was like a decline in animals. The same camps we'd go to where there used to be huge herds of elephants, there's now 2 or 3 elephants, or big wild spaces, there's now farm fields. So I didn't really realize it as a kid, but as I got older, I was like, I don't like that. Like I don't want all that wild stuff to go away. And so I didn't really realize it when I was young, but over time, even as a child, I was like, this is something that I would like to dedicate my life to, is making sure that all this wild stuff, spaces, animals, all of it doesn't go away.
So I'm guessing you're thinking then along the lines of like conservation, like that. Did you come out of your youth just feeling inspired towards that?
That's a very nice way to put it. It starts by breaking a lot of rules, bending the laws a lot, and just being, those kids, right? You're the yoink kid on Instagram. He's catching all the snakes and stuff. You're one of those kids.
Got it.
You know what I mean? And so in the U.S., there's a lot of laws against, don't harass this and don't do that. In Zimbabwe, there's fuck all for laws, right? So it's just kind of do whatever. So I think that love and that appreciation came from fiddling with everything, catching it, trapping it, working with it. But ultimately, as you fall in love with something, you want to protect it, and that's conservation.
And so what was thinning the herds there?
People, just mostly encroachment, a little bit of poaching, ivory poaching and stuff, hunting elephants, but more like habitat encroachment, villages popping up, big trees getting cut down for farm field, goats and things getting moved in, stuff like that, like grazing, and so pushing the animals out.
And was it affecting, like, were you guys on a bigger piece of like nature reserve or?
The safari camps they were all out in the bush, but it still, you still would just see a general impact, like a thinning of animals.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did your family continue the safari business in Zimbabwe, or how do you get from there sort of to here into the U.S.? Yeah,
so we tried to, but during the early 2000s, Zimbabwe was under something called the Land Reform Campaign, which was President Robert Mugabe at the time, who declared himself supreme leader for life. He did this thing where...
Oh, like a boss, huh? Like Birdman.
Yeah, he came in hard, yeah. And he made it, this land reform made it so that it was very, very hard. Like my family's 6th generation Zimbabwe, but basically it was a race war. And if you were white, you weren't supposed... There was a land reform campaign passed that meant that if you were black and you had heritage, you could come and take that land away.
No way.
Because, of colonial settlement and things like that. Obviously, I grew up long after any colonial settlement took place. But yeah, we had gunfights and we had, neighbors murdered and punguis, which is indoctrination through torture into the political party, the ZANU-PF political party. There was some crazy political turmoil.
Zimbabwe's land reform refers to a controversial program that began in 1980 and escalated in 2000, redistributing farmland from white commercial farmers to black Zimbabweans. So your family was...
We were farmers.
So you were farmers, and this happened as you guys were there?
So when I was a kid, it says here 1980 is when it started, which it may have, but when I was a kid, we never locked our doors. We didn't have barbed wire fences, nothing. It was very safe, very peaceful country. But in like 99, 2000, and then 2001 when we left, it got really bad really quickly. And it was sort of an attempt by Robert Mugabe to to retain power for his party, the ZANU-PF political party.
Oh, I see. So his party would feel like maybe they were going to be pushed out, and so he's like, I need to do something drastic right now in order to stay in.
Exactly.
And so I'm going to return this colonialized land
to the people,
from whites to the black to the black people.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah.
And so but you saw that like in neighbors, you saw people's lands being taken over, stuff like that?
I saw a kid get shot in the head. We saw everything. It was crazy. Yeah. I mean, there were gunfights. We had these war veterans settling on the fence lines. We were the smallest farm in the Shambha district. That was where I grew up. And so we were the last ones to get taken because we had the lowest political incentive or financial incentive, right? So you look at the area where we lived, there were all these huge farms, right? $1 million a year plus tobacco farms and things. We were a tiny little Ulstrom area, which is an exotic flower farm. And so we were the last ones to get grabbed because why bother with us, right?
We'll get them at the end.
Exactly.
Right.
So we saw neighbors get murdered, these punguis, like I said, which is indoctrination through torture, crazy war chants, shootouts, everything. It was nuts for a little while.
And would these groups just kind of come like in just trucks, like, and sort of, or would they come in like force? Was it the government coming, or was it just like citizens, black citizens?
It was pretty much just citizens, like unemployed citizens, basically. Right. And for the majority, it was kids with guns.
Wow.
You know, you're 14, 15 years old, you grew up maybe on the streets of Harare, and all of a sudden you have this dictator like president going, hey, those rich white guys over there, go get them.
Right.
You know, and they're like, okay, you know, they call it war veterans that survived the war. There were no war veterans. It was just kids with guns, like 14 to 20-year-old kids.
Wow.
And that's what, shootouts and all this. But all that being said, I don't want to paint a bad light on it. It was an incredible childhood. There was just a couple rough years there. Yeah.
Well, one thing that's fascinating about Africa, even like places that I've been there, is you see the race, like the racial colonial, you see that. It's very evident in a lot of places. You also see a lot of like black leadership that comes into power and gets very desperate and will try to own everything themselves as well. It's a
tribal mentality, right? It's like I come from this culture, whether it's Shona, Zulu, whatever it happens to be, and that tribe is like the way that I've been a dominant tribe is I dominate another tribe, right? And this is not a racial thing, it's a cultural thing. And they get leadership, whether that's being a president or being a minister or whatever it is, and then how am I going to retain it? I'm going to dominate another tribe. Doesn't matter if they're white, black, Zulu, Shona, whatever. It's just I'm going to dominate. Yeah. And it's a crazy thing. I'll tell you a crazy story. I don't think I've ever told anybody this publicly. I grew up on a farm, 200 employees that worked on our farm, right? Like 200 people that pick flowers, blah, blah, blah. My best friends were all black Shona kids, Zimbabwean kids. And I remember one day going to school. I was 14, so I didn't really understand what was going on other than stuff was going bad. And my best friend, who had been my best friend since we were like 7 years old, we went to lunch that day, like a random Tuesday. And the prefects, which like the older, like the seniors, right? They come out and they're like, you two, come over here. They're like, Forrest, go on that side. And I'm like,
at school,
okay,
you mean?
at school. Like proper school, like button down, like, very formal school.
Right.
Like, Forrest, go over here. And Malusi, go over here. Malusi was my friend. Malusi's black. And they're like, go on this side. And I was like, why are we getting split up? And they're like, we're having a fight. Black versus white at school. And my best friend, who felt as shocked as I would, he got like moved by the seniors to the other side of the rugby field to have a fist fight with us. And I was just like, why are we doing this? I was like so confused because we didn't understand it. We were just little kids, but this racial tension got insane. And it boiled over. And you've seen like Donald Trump, just called out the South African president around it, but that similar sort of thing is taking place in South Africa now.
With the same type of energy, like let's take the land back from the white owners.
Exactly.
Well, I think it's the same thing sometimes when you look at Hamas in Gaza. Yeah. It's like a lot of people believe that Hamas was elected because they felt no other way to try and stop Israeli people from coming and just taking over their homes. That's a lot of what I hear from friends on both sides of it, that like they needed to do something drastic, right? So they elected the most drastic element that they could.
And I think that's a sign of desperation, right? Regardless of the situation. It's like if you're desperate, you do something drastic. It's a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think some of that's it's human nature.
Totally.
Probably.
I do it myself, right?
Yeah.
You're like, shit, what do I do? Let's just send it, you know?
Oh, definitely. When it's getting late at night and your wife left you or whatever, and you just text some girl that you knew from a couple years.
Still up? Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
Yeah, dude. So I think that happens a lot. You saw someone get shot?
Yeah, one of the neighbors, we were riding our motorbikes and he got shot. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, so these groups, they come and then would they kind of kick people out of their homes? I mean, was that sort of how it was happening? And then how did you guys end up eventually leaving?
Yes. So basically they'd come, they'd surround the property or the farm, but white Zimbabweans, similar to like white South Africans or whatever, they're pretty hard people. Grew up farming culture, you know. So they dig their heels in and say, bring it on. And there'd always ultimately end up being a shootout or something like that. And so what happened to us, and I can't speak for every farm, but a lot of our friends, like a lot of their dads got murdered and all this other stuff. But what happened to us is my mom was a single mother with my sister and I on the farm at the time. And they came, they surrounded our farm, and they came and they said to my mom, they're like, we'll give you 24 hours to leave or we're going to kill you and take everything. And so my mom, and I remember I was 14, I ran upstairs and I grabbed my gun and I grabbed a knife and I was like, bring it on. And my mom like hit me and she's like, go get in the car, pack your shit and get in the car. And I was like, yes, mom. You know, and so we left. So nothing bad happened to us physically, but it was just a very like ripped from everything overnight kind of situation.
Wow. So Mama Galante had the sense, huh?
Yeah, thank God, because I didn't. Still don't. Yeah.
What happened to your dad? He wasn't there?
No, they split up when I was pretty young, and he moved into town and remarried and all of that, and he just didn't want to have much to do with it.
And your mother ran a botanical farm out there?
Yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
ran the flower farm. Flowers and oranges.
Was it pretty beautiful out there with the flowers?
So beautiful. So we had these big Masasa trees. We lived on a koppie, which is like a granite mountain with the house on top.
Masasa tree, it's called?
Yeah.
I want to see it.
It's really, yeah. Like your iconic African tree. Yeah.